How long do you actually need to fast before your stubborn belly fat, especially dangerous visceral fat, finally starts to melt away? In this video, that mystery is going to be broken down step by step, using what recent science is revealing about fasting, hormones, and fat burning. No more random guesses, no more trendy promises. You are about to see what really needs to happen inside your body before visceral fat starts to shrink. Most people believe that just eating less is enough, but visceral fat is not that simple. This hidden fat reacts strongly to insulin, cortisol, inflammation, sleep, and even the timing of your meals. Fasting is one of the most powerful levers to change those signals, but only when it reaches the right duration and is done in a safe, strategic way. In this video, you will discover what happens in your body hour by hour as you fast, when your body actually begins to switch from burning sugar to burning fat, and at what point the process becomes especially aggressive against visceral fat. Stay very attentive, because there is a big difference between a short fast that barely touches your fat stores and a well-planned fasting window that truly pushes your body to tap into deep belly fat reserves. If you are interested in science-backed strategies rather than guesswork, you are in the right place. Before going deeper, comment below if you are enjoying this video so far and tell where in the world you are watching from. Also, stay with this video until the end, because the final tips will help you avoid dangerous mistakes. And remember, if you decide to try fasting, always do it under the supervision of a licensed medical professional. To understand how fasting can help reduce visceral fat, it is essential to know what visceral fat actually is. Unlike the fat just under your skin, which you can pinch with your fingers, visceral fat is stored deep inside your abdomen. It wraps around your internal organs, such as your liver, pancreas, and intestines. This is why someone can look only slightly overweight on the outside, but still carry a dangerous amount of hidden fat on the inside. Visceral fat is metabolically active, which means it behaves almost like an organ itself, constantly releasing substances into your bloodstream. This type of fat is strongly linked to insulin resistance, which makes it harder for your body to control blood sugar levels. Over time, this increases the risk of prediabetes and type 2 diabetes. Visceral fat also promotes low-grade chronic inflammation. That kind of silent inflammation is associated with a higher risk of heart disease, high blood pressure, stroke, fatty liver, and even some cancers. In other words, the more visceral fat someone carries, the more toxic the internal environment of the body can become, even if that person believes they are only a little out of shape. Hormones are also affected. Visceral fat disrupts the normal balance of hormones involved in appetite, metabolism, and stress. It can increase cortisol, the stress hormone, making it harder to lose fat and easier to gain more around the abdomen. It can also interfere with leptin and insulin signaling, which are crucial for controlling hunger and how the body uses energy. That is one of the reasons why people with a lot of visceral fat often feel hungrier, more tired, and more easily inflamed. Because of all this, reducing visceral fat is not just about aesthetics or looking leaner. It is about lowering the risk of serious chronic disease and improving the overall function of the body. Fasting becomes interesting here because it changes many of the signals that visceral fat responds to, including insulin levels, growth hormone, and cellular stress responses. Later in this video, these mechanisms will be explored in detail so you can understand how the right fasting pattern may help your body gradually use visceral fat as fuel. If you want more science-based content like this on a regular basis, consider subscribing to the channel now in a discreet way, so you do not miss the upcoming videos on fasting, metabolism, and long-term health. When you stop eating, your body does not immediately start burning visceral fat. At first, it simply uses the last meal you consumed. For the first few hours after eating, your body is in the fed state, digesting and absorbing nutrients. Insulin is elevated, and this hormone tells your cells to store energy, not to release it. During this period, fat burning is naturally limited because your body has more than enough energy circulating from the food you just ate. After roughly 8 to 12 hours without food, depending on the size and composition of your previous meals, your body begins to shift. Liver glycogen, which is a stored form of glucose, starts to decrease. As this happens, insulin levels start to fall, Lower insulin opens the door for fat cells to release stored fat into the bloodstream to be used as energy. This does not mean you are only burning visceral fat at this stage, but the overall switch from sugar burning to increased fat burning is beginning. As the fast continues into the range of about 14 to 20 hours, the body usually moves more strongly into a fat-burning mode. Hormones such as noradrenaline, norepinephrine can increase slightly, helping mobilize fat from storage. Growth hormone also tends to rise, which can help preserve muscle while the body uses fat as fuel. During this phase, people often report clearer mental focus and more stable energy, which may be related to the production of ketone bodies as fat is broken down. This shift creates conditions that are more favorable for targeting deeper fat stores, including visceral fat, although the body still uses a mixture of fuels. Beyond 20 hours and into longer fasts, autophagy and cellular repair processes may become more active. This is when the body begins to clean up damaged components inside cells, which is one of the reasons longer or repeated fasts are being studied for metabolic and longevity benefits. The longer insulin remains low, the more time the body has to pull on fat stores to meet its energy needs. Visceral fat is particularly responsive to changes in insulin and energy demand, which is why fasting can be such a powerful strategy when applied intelligently and consistently. However, not everyone should attempt extended fasts, and the ideal duration varies with health status, medication use, and lifestyle. Those details will be addressed in the next topics, including practical timeframes that studies often explore for metabolic improvement and visceral fat reduction. Research on fasting and visceral fat does not point to a single perfect number of fasting hours that works identically for every person. Instead, studies tend to work with specific fasting patterns and then measure changes in weight, waist circumference, visceral fat markers, and metabolic health. One common pattern is time-restricted eating, where individuals eat all their meals within a limited daily window, such as 8 hours, and fast for the remaining 16 hours. Several studies suggest that consistent 16-hour fasting windows, when combined with healthy food choices, can improve insulin sensitivity and contribute to reductions in abdominal and visceral fat over time. Other research explores alternate day fasting, where people alternate between days of very low calorie intake and days of more normal eating. This approach often creates a larger weekly calorie deficit and more frequent periods of low insulin, which can promote more aggressive fat loss. Some trials have found that alternate day fasting can significantly reduce visceral fat and improve cardiovascular risk markers in a matter of weeks to months, especially in people who were overweight or had metabolic syndrome at the start. However, this method can be more challenging to maintain, and not everyone tolerates it well psychologically or physically. There are also studies on longer supervised fasts, sometimes lasting 24, 36, or even more hours, done periodically rather than every day. These longer fasts may trigger deeper changes in metabolism and cell repair pathways. In some groups, they have been linked to reductions in visceral fat and improvements in blood pressure, cholesterol, and markers of inflammation. However, they also carry a higher risk of side effects, such as dizziness, fatigue, electrolyte imbalances, or interactions with medications like those for diabetes or blood pressure. That is why longer fasts are usually recommended only under professional supervision. Overall, science points to a few key ideas. First, consistent fasting windows of at least around 14 to 16 hours can be a powerful starting point for many people who are medically cleared. Second, the best fasting duration is the one that safely maintains a sustainable calorie deficit while keeping muscle mass, energy, and mental well-being. Third, visceral fat tends to respond well when fasting is combined with a diet rich in whole foods, adequate protein, sleep optimization, and stress management. In other words, fasting is a strong tool, but it works best as part of a complete lifestyle strategy rather than an isolated trick. Translating science into daily life starts with selecting a fasting pattern that is realistic and safe for your current situation. For many beginners, a 12-hour fasting window is a gentle starting point. For example, finishing dinner at 8 p.m. and having the next meal at 8 a.m. After adapting to that rhythm, the window can gradually extend to 14 or 16 hours, such as eating from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. This progressive approach allows your body, hormones, and hunger signals to adjust without overwhelming stress. It also reduces the risk of rebound overeating during the eating window. During the fasting period, hydration is crucial. Water, plain mineral water, and unsweetened herbal teas are generally safe options for most people when approved by a health professional. Some individuals also use black coffee without sugar or cream, which is low in calories. But sensitivity to caffeine and personal tolerance always matter. The goal is to keep insulin low, avoid caloric intake, and support the body while it taps into stored energy. Electrolytes may be important for longer fasts, but the exact strategy should be discussed with a licensed health provider, especially for those with blood pressure, kidney, or heart issues. The eating window is just as important as the fasting window. To support visceral fat loss, meals should focus on high-quality protein, healthy fats, fiber-rich vegetables, and minimally processed carbohydrates. This combination helps control hunger, stabilize blood sugar, and reduce the likelihood of binging after the fast. Highly processed foods, rich in sugar, trans fats, and refined flour, send the wrong signals to your metabolism and can slow down or even reverse the benefits of fasting. Adequate sleep, resistance training, and stress management techniques, such as breathing exercises or light physical activity, amplify the positive effects of fasting on visceral fat. Listening to your body is essential. Warning signs such as extreme weakness, confusion, heart palpitations, or severe dizziness are signals to stop and seek medical advice. Fasting is not appropriate for everyone. People with a history of eating disorders, pregnant or breastfeeding women, individuals with certain chronic illnesses, and those taking medications such as insulin or strong blood pressure drugs must be especially cautious. For those who are medically cleared and follow an intelligent plan, fasting can become a long-term lifestyle tool rather than a short, unsustainable experiment. The goal is not to starve the body, but to give it structured periods of rest from constant eating so it can better regulate insulin, inflammation, and fat storage, particularly in the visceral area.